Okay. You know a few already. Okay. I just want to tell you what, like, reiterate that with that new vocab word, identity. Okay. We've already talked about what tangent is. Do you remember?
Nope.
It's the inside ground flows in this driver's case.
It was like 5 weeks ago.
Close there, Mr. Watson. Who's like yesterday? I don't care. Okay, yeah, tangent is sine over cosine. That is an identity. Because it always works. It's basically a formula that always works. Okay, Pythagorean theorem is an identity for right triangles because it always works. So identity is a formula that always works. Yay. Right. So the point is I can use these interchangeably. So how do we solve for something like tangent of pi over 4?
Oh, so that's like
These generate the same answer, so we can use them interchangeably, right? So root 2 over 2 over root 2 over 2, which is 1. So again, we can use identities interchangeably. It's an example. This is not all we have to do this chapter. Sorry.
Is that it?
First ball. Okay, you've worked with identities your whole life, so like a right triangle has an identity. No, that would be you. Okay, that's an identity that you've always worked with the Pythagorean theorem. So you just didn't know it as an identity. Okay. You okay with that? All right. We will add, so you already know at least 3 others. No, you know 6 others actually. Do you remember what secant is?
Isn't it
one
over cosine. Whatever. That's an identity. Right, so we have all 6 trig functions that have similar identities. We'll get into that. Okay. Well, we'll just do that now. Okay. So we just talked about secant. An identity for secant is 1 over cosine. And cosecant and cotangent, cosine over sine. So those, again, all the identities that you can use. What do you notice about all of them? What are they based on? Sine and cosine. So one of the big tips I can give you to solve trig equations: change to sine and cosine. Because the unit circle operates off of sine and cosine, right? So if we can make it a unit circle problem, it's going to be a much easier problem. Okay. sine and cosine.
I just can't. You're gonna post this student, but you're still not.
I think maybe you should sit closer to the board.
It's like a bill away.
He's still good here.
Is that what you can stand to like?
Okay, so we can use identities to our advantage.
What's beta? Is that beta? Yeah.
Theta.
Beta.
Theta.
Beta.
Okay, so if cosine of theta is 3/2, calculate secant theta. So you use an identity. We know that secant is 1 over cosine, right?
Yeah.
So secant is 1 over 3/2, which is
2/3.
Christian, I'm just going to make a general observation. You're pretty tightly wound right now, in general. You need to slow down, man. Like, press the stop button. This is not for you guys to comment on, but it's just an observation. Take a deep breath, it's okay. I completely understand where you're at right now. Do you agree with this statement?
Oh, yeah, I can say.
Okay, I gave you cosine, right?
Yeah.
So plug cosine in,
So,
and then do fraction math. Copy dot flip.
yeah.
He showed us his
Something that we will do weekly, if not daily, for the rest of the time that I know you. Okay, so another tip. Know how to do fraction math, because we will use it a lot in solving trig equations. Okay. So tips, again, and these tips are there's gonna be 4 of them mainly. They're gonna go through the whole chapter, and I'm gonna tell you it every day. Change to sine and cosine, know how to do fractions, and there are a couple others. Okay, one of them's use identities, which we did here too, right? You can also use an identity. Okay, that's 3. Just to frame your thinking. Okay, here's the last thing for the day. So one of the big things in math is proving things are true. Very high level college work most of the time. But one of the other things is proving something's not true. Okay, one way to prove the statement is false. In our case here, we would want to say one way to prove an identity is false, okay, because that's how we're going to use it. It's called a counterexample. So in order for something to be true in math, it has to work all the time. Okay, so that you can take to the bank. If something like the Pythagorean theorem, it works all the time for right triangles. That's why we attach right triangle to it, because it has to be a right triangle to work, right? Okay, so a general statement in math Okay, if you can find one time when something doesn't work. So if you can find that something is false using one example, we can't use it at all. Okay. So if you can find one time that something is false, okay, we can't use it. And that's what we're going to do here with the counterexample. You all right? Me too. Okay, so. Let's see which one it is. Okay, so does sin x jump the gun there a little bit, bud. Sin x times cosine x equals tangent x.
Yes.
Okay, so
I thought it was sine.
we know this is true, right?
Yeah.
I told you that's true. Okay. Does it make sense for us also to multiply to get tangent?
Yeah.
No. But you don't know that, okay? So how are we going to show that this is true or false? Okay, you don't have the tools to show it's true.
An example?
Would you just plug numbers
So
into it?
we're just going to plug numbers in and see if it works or doesn't work. So pick an x value in radians. Oh,
Pi over 4.
okay, good pick.
That's like the easiest one we can get.
All right, now you have to know your unit circle values.
Square 2 over 2.
Okay, I heard that. What's tan at power for? We already did it.
1.
All right, sine over cosine. Yeah, we're not going to go that far. This is the square root of 4, right? Which is 2 over 4. Is that true?
No.
Nope.
1/2 equals 1.
That is what we call a counterexample. Okay, so what we can say, so since this does not work one time,
It doesn't work at all.
we can't use it. Okay, so sin x, cosine x equal to tan x is not an identity.
But you need to.
Okay,
You just forgot to yell.
it's called a counterexample. They make entire books. I have a couple about counterexamples in specific subjects in math, like calculus. I have a book that's counterexamples in analysis. Okay? And it's all this stuff that you think would work, but it really doesn't. And all you have to do is show it doesn't work once. Okay? Questions?
Just a few minutes ago.
Make sure it's covered.
The whole school thinks you're a friend of
Are you good? Okay, so you have your basic. What is a counterexample and how do you use it to show that something's not an identity? And then you have the basic identities that always work and using them to solve trig problems. Okay, that's the idea. Again, baby steps. Indra,
What was the fourth bit?
what is it?
Yeah.
Good question.
That means
I think it is use your algebra skills. Okay, namely, what's the main algebra skill we use in quadratics? Right.
I don't know, that's so
right.
I think it's, again, we're not there yet. But using your algebra skills to solve these equations is going to come into play. Factoring's a big one. Okay? Jerry, quit twitching.
I'm getting feelings some places it's not good.
I'll tell you.
Okay.
What's your question? You have a question, Jerry?
Yeah.
Spit it out.
Why is it just saying do the math you've been doing your entire life as it tips?
These equations are going to get pretty complex. And you need tools to think them through.
How do you go down the math?
Okay.
It's probably your
You want to go
favorite
back to math 4?
It's now.
No, that's not what it is. You're complaining about doing math 4.
The way your heart keeps pumping hard, it's exposed to
Did you know what
we did this for what? Every time like one
We did
whoa,
this.
look at you.
Okay, this is there.
Because he's giving 2 days with the homework, but he gives us 3 days.
Hey, we have one Thursday too. Isaiah.
Okay, so,
Good job, man.
Hey, Christian, take down one hit stack.
Yeah, but all you do, you
I don't watch this video.
okay,
I'm
I'm telling you, the lack of focus is not going to work this chapter. You are going to bonk on this stuff. You don't pay attention day in and day out. Okay? So, I have 1, 2, 3 problems there. 1 and 6 through 8. Due Thursday. Now, part of that's because of basketball. The other part of it is because I want you to think these through. Okay? And then we will go over more tomorrow. And then the other one is due Friday. And this is one where we take it really slow, and I have to give you time to think these through. Start with baby steps.
These are all in
7.1. Okay? Indra. I'll probably get through a few of them next hour.
You told me to die.
Turn it in, I'll mark it, turn it in.
I saw Isaac.
It would have been Tyler.
Okay.
You told me that. I think that when he comes back.